Hi there team, so this is just a short tutorial video on how to use Vector to create the tutorial, the first one, which is the Inkscape Pacman baddie. Ideally we can use Inkscape, but if we can't, this is our alternative. So firstly we'll log into Vector, just hitting login, and then we'll click on Google, because we're going to sign in with Google. You may need to click use another account if you haven't got your school one here already, but I do, so just go ahead and select your school account, and we'll come to a page that looks a little bit like this. Now this one here, Welcome to Vector, is automatically made. This one goes through a lot of tutorial steps and teaches you how to use the program, so I'd recommend opening that and playing with that first. But we're just going to go create file, and this is our vector image, or where we'll be drawing it. So on our school website, on the design project, I've just gone down to the bottom where it says let's get inking. Alright, so I'm going to click on the first tutorial, Pacman baddie, and open it up here. So this is trying to have us use Inkscape, but a lot of these are transferable to Vector. So notice the first thing is to create a circle. In Inkscape, in Vector we have the Ellipse Tool. So we'll click on that and we will create a circle. If you hold Shift, it makes it so that it's a circle. So I'm holding the Shift key, and I'll make it so big. On the side here, we've got image, linear gradient, gradient, so coming from a point, and color. And I'm just going to make it look like the tutorial one, which is blue. So I'll click on the little color icon next to it and select a blue. Alright, we'll then notice that it tries to use the nodes tool in our instructions right here to move these nodes around. But in Vector, we don't need to do that, so we can just double click on the object to get its nodes up, and then we can start to move these around. As we see in instructions, we try to put two new little nodes underneath the existing ones. So let's do that. We can just double click. We'll notice that this little dot is showing up around here. So two little ones. Oops. So just click to drop it, and one over here, click to drop it. Okay, so our instructions now are to select both of them with the Shift key and drag them down. So I'll select that one, Shift that one, and then I actually get this option here to, we don't want to do that. We just want to drag these down. So if we hit, that one, Shift that one, and drag them down. Now you'll notice that it's moving these red things here. We don't want those to move, so we'll just drag both of these. Oh, I'll undo that. Moving these things here, we don't really need these to move. So when we drag these down to about here, so that they're in line, I'm just going to go and grab these all the way down here. Come on. Yeah, see, this is what we want to do. Move them both down like this. Oh, there we go. We get a little line saying that they're in line. If we hold... Yep. So we want them to come down, be in line. We see this blue line show up. And there we go. So let's move this one so it's underneath the top. So now our shape, move this one a little bit maybe, looks quite similar to the one over here. So sorry about the confusion. We'll just click on these nodes and drag them down. Now we notice that they add a few more nodes around the bottom here, and they drag them up to make this wiggly shape. So they added one node on the corner, very single click, one node down the bottom, and one in the middle. On the other side, corner, bottom, middle, and they just lifted this one here and this one here up. Awesome. So now I've got this shape here, which looks a lot like the tutorial shape. The next thing is the eyes. So we'll get our ellipse tool, draw an ellipse. Remember, if we hold shift, it'll make it a circle. And we'll drag that over to be the eye. So color wise, we want this one to be white. And we can Control C, Control V. Oh, can we? How do we duplicate? Duplicate. Control D to duplicate. And make a copy of it. Alright. Actually, what we probably want to do first is finish making the eye. So we'll put in its pupil. Shift to make it a circle. And I'm just going to add a little bit of a highlight just because I like the look of it. White dot. Cannot see it because it's too small. There we go. So if I drag a box around all of that, it will select everything. If I hit shift to deselect the body, now it's just selecting this. Now I have a few options here: unite, subtract, intersect, and exclude. I've also got flipping and moving back and forwards. But what I want to do is right click on it and group it together. Alright, so now with this I can hit that Control D to duplicate and have a second eye. So there we go, it's got a couple of eyes. Alright. So the next step, if we have a look back over here, is we've got the eyes, add a second layer of the skin, this time black, and make this sort of a highlight layer. So if we go back to the vector, we'll copy the skin, Control D to duplicate, we'll put it on top of the other one. Notice this little box, make it a box. Alright, and we'll make it black, because this is going to be shadows, and instead of being color, it's going to be a radial gradient. Okay, so it's going to go, turn down the opacity, and we'll move the radial bit. See, this big circle is where the shine is coming from. We'll put it up on his head, and we'll just shrink it down a little bit. We'll lower the opacity of the overall layer as well, just a little bit. And we'll notice that the eyes there are looking a little bit weird because of the shadows over it. So we're going to put this back, so it's behind both the eyes. Now there's a similar effect that is actually done to the eyes as well. So if we Control D to duplicate this, put it over top of the eye, do the exact same thing with the radial gradient. Oh, that's not going to work, because each one's getting a gradient. We click on this and double click to select just the object inside of it, and Control D that. Put that over top. Select that radial gradient, and again the opacity right down. I'm just making the eyes try to look like these ones here with the same effect, radial gradient up in one of the corners. Alright, so this eye here, and I'll just select all of that. Remember, shift to deselect that. Shift click. Oh. That's because there's two over top of each other. Right. Just move the body away for a second so I can highlight the eye and group it all together. body back. In fact, this would be a good time to join the body together as well. So then this is all one bit. So I'll get rid of this more basic eye and duplicate this one, Control D. And then we have two eyes, two of the more advanced looking eyes. Alright. Maybe his eyes are a little bit high up his head. Shift to select multiple, there we go. So we'll look back. The next bits are adding highlights and a shadow underneath. Okay, so if we go back to vector, we'll add a ellipse as the highlight. We go around the outside with this little rotate tool shows up. It says to change it from into a radial gradient. This one, turn the opacity down again, but we don't want, oh, sorry, turn the inner side to black and the outer side, so we'll select the outer bit and the opacity down on that. And then we'll make it radiate from the center. It's a little bit big, so we'll just drag this down. And we'll notice that it's sort of coming out of there. Alright, so we'll just make it a little bit bigger. Oh, sorry, this is meant to be white. The inner side is meant to be a white. The outer side is a invisible white. And it's just this little shiny bit on his head being a highlight. I'll just stretch it out a little bit. Oh, maybe a little bit less. Okay, just keep coming up here and just making it suit what we're working with. So there we go. And now we've got this little shine, and there's another little shine that shows up on his tail bit. But we'll just do the shadow underneath him, so another ellipse. It's white, but we'll change it to black. And what we can do is we can add shadows directly like that. But that's not what we're after. I think it's the blur effect, is it? Turn the opacity all the way up. It's not really looking like what I'm after, so I'll turn the shadow off. And just go back into the trusty radial gradient. The middle bit we want to be black, the outer bit we want to be invisible, so turn the opacity of that down, and then we'll set this into the middle. Alright, so let's try this again, because we should be able to affect this blur. Maybe if we turn the overall, that's probably it. Turn the overall opacity down, turn the blur right on up. Oh no, sorry, not the inside shadow, the shadow. There we go, as high as we go. Spread up as well. There we go. Opacity down to what it is over here, which is 60. There we go, and then we get this blurring effect, and I'll push this backwards to be behind it. Border will turn off. And we'll just turn this to color. Solid black. It's off. Oops, sorry. Alright, and there we go. There's our little Pacman guy. We can do some more work on the shadow and make it look a little bit better as we need to. Maybe the blur is a little bit big. Maybe an inner shadow as well would work. Something a bit more like that. There we go. Alright, so this here is what we're looking for the Pacman ghost. If we scroll down on the instructions, we can then get a little bit more creative and start to add some cool stuff to it. Inserting images and inside his color, inserting extra bits to make him a little bit more awesome. Swords, hair, and all that. But this was the base Pacman ghost that we're after. Hopefully that's a quick insight onto the Ellipse Tool, adding nodes, and the double click, and then we just single click to add them and move them as we need to. The only tool we haven't really looked at is the pen tool, which will allow us to make custom shapes. It's only not showing up because my border is set to be 0. Let's set that up. Oh, there we go. Custom shapes, and then we can click on it and we can add points and move all the stuff around. We can also click on points and alter the little handles to make them behave differently, depending on what we're after. Awesome. Alright, bye.